Everyone, I want to thank Visit Sheboygan and Seas for hosting this forum tonight, and Mr. Mayor for inviting us to your great city. Really appreciate being here. I really did want to be here tonight. I care deeply about the National Marine Sanctuary system and the conservation and stewardship of these areas. I have to tell you, we almost didn't make it here. We started out this morning about 6:30 a.m. and got here about 6 o'clock p.m. And I know it's very dangerous to mention your college football affiliation in a Big Ten state this night. I'm a Wolverine. I'm not Spartan at least. I'm a Wolverine. But I decided I was going to mention it because I thought there was one thing Wolverines and Dodgers could all agree with, that if it took us 12 hours to get here, it could only be Buckeyes running the big one today. Just a little football humor and I'll move on past that. Similar to Steve, I'm actually a Michigander and grew up on the Great Lakes and really loved the water skiing and kayaking there. And I'm hopeful, similarly, that we won't have Alpena and Thunder Bay be in the Great Lakes for very long. I really do hope that there will be a designation of the sanctuary here in Wisconsin and Lake Michigan. What I wanted to do is I wanted to talk a little bit about the national perspective on the National Marine Sanctuary System. So I was going to tell you a little bit about our organization, and then just wanted to cover a couple of kind of key points that I'd like to leave folks with. So the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation, we were set up about 17 years ago, and just to be clear, we're not affiliated with NOAA. We're actually a nonprofit organization, and we were set up to help conserve America's national marine sanctuaries and work with community in partnerships for these areas. And we talk about them as really being our treasured areas. These are areas of national significance because of the natural resources they have, the cultural resources they have, and similar here, the maritime resources that they have. So what we do for our work is all about partners. We try to form a partnership between public entities and communities and other organizations that are interested in these areas to support research. And that research can include maritime heritage and preservation research, and it can also include natural resources research. Sometimes we work around whale disentanglement, for example. We support a lot of citizen science and really volunteer engagement in the sanctuaries. We aid in conservation and preservation projects, and we also help try to provide funds to support projects that local communities want to do in conjunction with the sanctuaries. So a lot of what our work is building those partnerships and helping work with communities to try to tell their story and the uniqueness about the sanctuary that they're establishing or that they've established and want to get out even more broadly to the public. So there's probably 3 points that I want to leave you with tonight, and a lot of people have actually hit on them. They hit on them very eloquently. First, national marine sanctuaries are very community driven, and I think Steve mentioned it really well. There was an older process where there was much more top down, but when NOAA reopened this new process for designation, it really made it a bottom up process, with communities participating by saying, we actually have interest in this nomination, and then having public meetings where folks could actually talk about the boundaries and resources that they wanted to protect. And then it goes all the way through to once a site is designated, the management processes, as Steve mentioned, being part of the Sanctuary Advisory Committee. There's 440 members of Sanctuary Advisory Committees across the country representing very different stakeholder perspectives that all participate in the management of these areas. And I think maybe what I think is even more telling about how important these are and how important the community-based processes are in this, across these 14 sites, 137 volunteer hours occur each year. So this is people in the community donating their time, their resources, their services to protect these areas for their children and their grandchildren. Another point I want to leave you with is that when Congress passed the National Marine Sanctuary Act, they did it because they wanted to conserve and protect nationally significant areas. And again, it's for future generations. And the point that I want to drive here, because I think sometimes this gets lost, these waters are public waters.
They're America's waters. NOAA holds them in trust for our children, for our grandchildren, and for this current generation. These are Fraser waters. This is not a federal takeover, but this is about a partnership. And Congress really saw the benefit of designating these nationally significant areas. And what designation brings with it, they were recognizing that there are special places, and what designation brings with it is this opportunity for research, for education, for conservation, and for exploration. A lot of what John talked about in his remarks about how now you have partners that can actually help leverage your resources and go further. And lastly, the point I want to leave you with is that this is about enhancing preservation. So when we look at a national marine sanctuary, it's in partnership with local communities, with states, with universities, and it helps build a comprehensive plan. It almost becomes a focal point for organizing your resources and organizing your vision around. And in this case, this is going to be a very important co-management relationship with the state. And what I've heard and what I've seen is, again, that this is a federal takeover. And I want to say that's like the furthest possible from on this issue. It doesn't affect private property rights. It's not taking away riparian rights. And in fact, it actually brings you into the process. And I just want to end my remarks because I was out in California at the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary this weekend, and they were actually celebrating their 25th anniversary. And that was actually designated a site by Congress, and Secretary Leon Panetta was a member of Congress when that site happened, so we were honoring him. And one of the things that I thought was extraordinary, given his head of being DOD and also being the head of the CIA and many other ones, was that he saw establishment of the sanctuary as one of his greatest accomplishments. And he saw that because he felt so strongly about democracy, and he thought democracy really formed the heart of the sanctuary core. And that's because of this process. When Monterey was established, not everybody agreed. It was bringing together a community around what their interests were to have a discussion. And in those 25 years, it's been a very active discussion through Sanctuary Advisory Committee. So tonight is still about, it's a continuation of that democracy that really forms the base. It's allowing us to have this discussion. And sometimes we're not going to all be in agreement, but hopefully one of the things I want to say that we can share an interest in, I think everybody in this room at least shares an interest that Wisconsin has these incredible maritime resources located off the shores that really tell a very important part of the history of the Great Lakes and the history of this country. And we want to tell that story to our children, and we want to engage them in that education and in that knowledge that we have. And if we can come together around those interests, I think we can have a really good discussion, similar to what Thunder Bay did and Monterey did and other sites, about how we all work together to actually accomplish what's in our interest and how we can get to that goal working together in support of this area. So thank you.